My advice to you is, don't go. It's rough out there. Move back with your parents.
Well, it might be a funny movie scene, but in reality, more than a quarter of graduates or graduating college seniors, well, they don't feel prepared for the job market. According to a new survey, 30% believe there aren't any jobs, and 28% worry they'll have to take a temporary job.
Here with advice for these grads, senior fellow at Independent Women's Forum, Julie Gunlock. Julie, great to have you here. Off the top, just your advice for graduates. I mean, how about just toughen up and go get a job?
Right, exactly. But college students do need to toughen up, and they also need to realize they might not be the vice president of marketing or the vice president of sales their first job. I mean, I started off as a receptionist. I know a lot of people who had to schlep coffee and get dry cleaning and make a lot of Xerox copies. I don't know if they make Xerox copies anymore, but the point is that you might have to take your standards down a little bit, get a free internship and work part-time at night. I mean, it's really tough out there, and college students need to understand that that's the reality of life.
But what's changed in the last few years? Because you talk about these entry-level jobs. That's the way it used to be for everybody. You go out and you get a job. It's not glamorous. You serve coffee. That was my first job out of college. You don't get paid barely anything, but you learn and you figure out how to be an adult and live in the real world. What has changed today that people aren't more willing to do that?
So much has changed. First of all, the parenting culture has changed. Parents now coddle children, overprotect them. Often parents do instead of teach, and this is really detrimental to kids. Then they go to college and they're protected from anything that might offend them. Instead of rigorous debate, they're offered safe spaces and speech codes and trigger warnings. Employers are not going to stand for this. They're certainly not going to care about your feelings. And so I think college students really are in for a bit of a culture shock when they get out of college.
Okay, so Julie, besides joining the military, which I would recommend is a good way to get out of this whole thing, you've got helicopter parents, and then you've got safe spaces. What could a parent do right now if they realize, whoa, I didn't prepare my kid for the real world? How do you pull it back? How do you get them prepared?
Very simple things. Look, teach your kids how to make a simple meal for themselves. Teach them how to do their laundry. Give them chores where they earn a small amount of money, and then let them walk to the store by themselves where they can purchase something that they want. Let them walk to school. Give them more freedom to make decisions on their own.
And also teach them how to use social media. Pete and I didn't have Instagram when we were in college, probably for the best. But you don't think about when you're in high school and college the things that you're posting that might impact the job that you want to get when you graduate.
Very good point. Keep your social media clean. Thankfully, there were barely computers when I was young, so I was able to avoid that. But that is very important. Employers are increasingly looking at people's public profiles and their social media profiles.
Julie,
you're a
part of something called the Culture of Alarmism Project. No, I think I know what it means. Explain to our viewers what that means.
Well, look, parents are constantly told. Part of the reason we have helicopter parenting is because parents are constantly told there are dangers around every corner, and that's not true. We live in safer times. We have more access to health care and products than ever before, safe products. And so I try to tell parents not to be so worried. Let your kids go out there and explore a little more.
It's basically the Quit Freaking Out Project, right?
Yes. That's a far better title.
Maybe you can change it. No, I love the approach.
Julie Gunlock, good to have you on this morning. Such an important topic.
Thank you.
Thanks
good
for
stuff.
having me.
All right. Well, White House reporter April Ryan firing back about her relationships with President Trump's press secretaries. Listen.
And I've had relationships with press secretaries. I just don't seem to understand why these last two press secretaries like to point me out.
One person she's talking about, Sean Spicer. He is here to respond at the top of the hour. You don't want to miss that.
Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. It's been waiting for you. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York.
All we hear about is this phony Russia witch hunt. That's all we hear about.
Virginia federal judge T.S. Ellis said, come on, man.
He's basically saying, you got to give me more than this.
This is the first guy to come out and say, hey, where's the case? This judge is my new hero.
John Kerry, the former Secretary of State, he could be in violation of the Logan Act.
He was very involved in the Iran deal. The Boston Globe, it says Kerry has been on an aggressive yet stealthy mission to preserve it.
We are in constant contact with North Korea. We've actually worked out a time and a place. We are all finally putting America first. I love you too. Thank you.
Pete versus Ed. After weeks of losing to Ed, Pete gets another chance at redemption today. How long, our producers say, will the embarrassment continue?
This is how we roll. Whoa, we're hanging around, singing down everything on the radio.
America wants to know.
This is where it's all going down later on in the show this morning. Right now, you've got Lawrence and Rick. Rick won that one, but later on in the show, it's going to be Ed versus Pete. And of course, we have birthdays. We're celebrating everything on this
Your
show.
birthday this week.
Your birthday was on Tuesday,
Thank you, Pete.
right?
Glad you
I
remembered.
forgot to text you, but I remembered today.
Thank you.
Because of the cake.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
You know, I'm gonna let you win one of these. So sooner.
Oh,
or
no.
later,
So
you
that's
know.
how you're going to stack the deck.
I'm just saying.
Look at this guy. Hedging
can't
his
win
bets.
every weekend,
So it's
so I'm
Derby
getting tired of
Day.
winning.
So we've got a Derby on the Plaza. It's a ball rolling game. Ed's been known about this
Gentle.
contest for weeks. He's been practicing
I've been
for
practicing.
weeks. I haven't done it once.
Yeah.
I will say that Rick did beat. It looks like Rick
Lawrence
beat
Jones.
Lawrence Jones out
Yeah,
there. So
you're lowering
kudos to Rick.
expectations.
You guys are
which is a good
both
idea.
lowering expectations
Always.
for yourself.
Yeah, why are you doing
Lost to basketball, golf.
I'm going to
the
raise him.
dunk.
I'm going to
You
win.
guys need to
I'm not just going to win. I'm going to smoke him. Okay, today.
You need to keep writing us in, guys. Friends at FoxNews.com. Who is going to win between Ed and Pete? We're going to read those later
I've
in the
played
show.
a lot of parlor games in my life.
I bet
a
you
lot
have.
of bowling alleys, a lot of arcades. I
All
feel
right,
good about this.
Let's bring in Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary and, of course, author of The Briefing. Sean, who's going to win this battle?
Oh.
You know, I think the pundits totally were in the tank for Hillary Clinton. The idea that Pete is losing to Ed Henry in all of these events, holy smokes. Nate Silver would have been rolling over going, no way.
Yeah.
Thanks,
this
Sean.
is great.
Appreciate it, bud.
Yeah,
All right.
expectations were low for me, and I beat
Dude,
him
the
at
Army,
everything.
Pete, the Army needs to up its game, brother.
Totally.
I know he's about to be a full bird colonel,
Navy
maybe
man.
lieutenant colonel. You don't know he's a Navy man himself. So okay, I'll do my
Well
best.
played,
For
Sean.
you.
Well, Sean, thanks for playing, but we've got a lot of news. And overnight, we hear that 2 top FBI officials are now abruptly resigning. The president's been talking about this for a long time. His critics have been pushing back. But I think his point has been it's time to investigate the investigators. And you saw there Lisa Page mixed up in that texting scandal, and then the
James Baker.
anti-Trump text, and James Baker, who is the general counsel. What do you think this says that they're getting out before this Inspector General report comes out?
Well, that's a good thing. Obviously, anybody that doesn't uphold the highest standards of the law and in pursuit of justice needs to go. The men and women of the FBI work throughout this country to uphold the law, and I think that they have a sterling reputation for the most part, and to see these bad eggs tarnish that reputation is not a good thing for the institution, and I'm glad they're getting out of the way. And it further bolsters the president's point that there are people that are out to get him. So I think overall it's a good thing that they're getting out of the way, but I think that justice still needs to be served, and we look forward to seeing what the IG says.
All right. Well, NBC News, on another note, was in some hot water earlier this week for reporting on a story that Michael Cohen, the president's attorney, was wiretapped that turned out to be not true. Here is the tweet. They said a great public servant. Can we pull that back?
That was a tweet from Comey. Yep.
That was a tweet from Comey. So we are talking about NBC now. Sorry about that, Sean. So
Right, that's Peter. That's the Baker one.
So your response, though, to how the media is,
Right.
They jump so quickly to report a story. How often we've seen so far this administration, they've had to retract, they've had to apologize.
Well, it's fascinating to me that when the media screws up, and in this case they screwed up big time, in their pursuit of going after President Trump, their instinct after they screw up is just to say the story's been updated. But when the situation is fluid at the White House and facts are coming out, and Sarah or myself back in the day went out and tried to give them the best that we could at the time, we're called liars. When they do it, it's called an update, and there's no apology, there's no regret. And I think that is a very interesting double standard by which they do their job. If somebody else updates the facts as they come out, they're a liar. If they do it themselves, it's called an update. And I think that this is an embarrassment for NBC, as it has been in the past for so many other news organizations that have jumped the gun.
Such a great point. Semantics matter. So if a politician does something, they're lying. If a journalist does something, then they update or correct. That's what I believe Chuck Todd and Tom Winter said. Listen to what they said in their correction.
Earlier today, NBC News reported that there was a wiretap on the phones of Michael Cohen. But we've got a correction to that now. It's not a wiretap where they're listening into the phone calls.
We reported that there was a wiretap on Michael Cohen's phone, meaning that they were able to listen into conversations from phone lines associated with Michael Cohen. Now 3 senior U.S. officials are telling us that this is it was not a wiretap. Instead, it was what is referred to as a pen register. In plain English, that means it's a log of phone calls that were made.
And it's always 3 anonymous U.S. officials, so there's no accountability on where the information comes from as well.
Correct. Well, further, there's no accountability. You know, as we said, when they screw up, it's just they say that we're updating the story and they move on. When somebody else does it, they continue to question their integrity, although they may have gone out with the best intentions to give the facts that were available at the time. So I do think it's fascinating, the double standard that exists.
Sean, you've been in that briefing room. You know, it can get hot in there sometimes. And Sarah Sanders.
You've been in there too.
Yeah, I've been in there. It gets a little interesting. And Sarah Sanders went back and forth with someone that you had some exchanges to as well, April Ryan. Watch this.
Blindsided. You said yourself you were blindsided.
I actually didn't use that term.
Well, I said it, but you were blindsided from what you said.
Well, with all due respect, you actually don't know much about me in terms of what I feel and what I don't.
And then April Ryan, I don't want to drag this on, but look at what she did with that. Seemed to take it to a whole nother level. Watch.
It was not personal. What it shows me is that she was feeling that she was in a vice, you know, of sorts. But she went straight to me to say something like, you know, you don't know me. In certain sectors of this nation, people understand what you don't know me means. It's very street, and it leads to a fight, a physical fight. So I'm not there to fight. I'm there to ask questions. Been doing it for 21 years very well. And I've had relationships with press secretaries. I just don't seem to understand why these last 2 press secretaries like to point me out.
Sean, what say you? Because she's suggesting that maybe you and Sarah Sanders have something with April.
A street fight, Sean.
I'm not. We're going to disarm here. Look, I think that both Sarah and I have shown April a ton of respect. One of the things that I did when I went into the briefing room was that I increased the number of journalists that I called on, going to the back of the room, going to niche publications, going to ethnic publications, because I believed that it was important for the American people through the briefing to hear more journalists ask questions from a different background that represented different constituencies from America. So, you know, I think it's interesting that April, who's probably, my guess would be, has been called on more in the last by myself and Sarah than any previous press secretary, is looking at that as an insult. In fact, I think it's a compliment. And I think when you look at the nature of the question she asked, she literally starts off by saying, you say you were blindsided. Sarah never actually said it. And then April turns that into a story in itself. I think the bigger question is, why can't she just ask a straightforward question and ask for a straightforward
Sean, why do you
answer?
think she's doing that? Why does she want to start a fight?
I don't think she wants to start a fight, but look, by her own admission, she's been in the briefing room for 21 years, and it's not just her, but there's a lot of other reporters that, because of the attention the briefing gets now, have gotten newfound notoriety. Sure. Suddenly, after April engaged in a bunch of back and forth, she gets a CNN contract, as have many other reporters who have created sort of YouTube viral moments, not because of the content of the reporting, but because they became some kind of sensation through a back and forth.
It's
what that tells me is they're more interested in personal fame, right?
Sean, this is an honest question. You've been in that briefing room, as Ed mentioned. Do these reporters actually still believe that they're arbiters of fairness and balance and truth? Or is there, as it set in at all, that they may be biased or extremely biased against this White House, and it comes out in the way they question?
Well, there's some that definitely fit that bill, and I wouldn't paint it with a broad brush, because there are some journalists in there that are really committed to doing a great job and focusing on the facts and solid journalism and storytelling. But I think that there are several that have realized that they can get newfound fame. So there's 2 things that are going on in the briefing room. One is that there is definitely people with a personal agenda against this president and against conservatives. Second, I think there are several of them that, regardless of their personal bias ideologically realize that they can make more money and more fame by being obnoxious and creating viral moments in the briefing room. So I think that those combinations of things have really changed the nature of the briefing room.
Yeah, Sean, I think it's a great point. For some people, it's become less about the story and more about them personally. It's unfortunate that that has to happen. But Sean, always good to have you on the show.
Yep.
Thanks, Sean.
We're looking forward to the book.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, Pete, thanks for the plug, but Pete, during the break, you got to do some push-ups or something. I mean, get ready.
I'll do them for you right now. Right now, Sean.
Uh-oh, wait, you're off camera. People can't see.
I know, but I'm doing them. There we go.
I wish they could see his
Sean
effort.
Spicer says he wants push-ups. He gets a few push-ups.
This is one time where the Navy is tweaking the Army.
Hey, he outranks me.
Love it.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. All right, we have some other news we are following closely this morning. Starting on a serious note with a Fox News alert, an Indiana police officer shot and killed while investigating a homicide case. Officers approaching the suspect at an apartment complex when the man opened fire, causing a shootout with police. Watch.
He's got his muzzle out. Like your window, he's got a rifle. He's pointing it at us. Get good cover.
The suspect killed in that gunfire, the fallen officer, a veteran of the Terre Haute Police Department, has not yet been identified. We'll keep a close eye on that one. Also, Vice President Mike Pence's personal physician is stepping down. Dr. Jennifer Penna resigning after raising concerns about White House physician Ronnie Jackson's conduct last fall. Penna accused Jackson of violating privacy protections for the vice president's wife, Karen Pence. According to memos obtained by CNN, Penna claimed that she was being intimidated by Jackson during angry confrontations over the incident, but her claims were proven to be unsubstantiated. And while you were sleeping, NASA launching a historic mission to Mars.
3, 2, 0.
The rocket blasting off from California's Vandenberg Air Force Base about an hour ago. It is the first spacecraft to launch to another planet from the West Coast. The rocket is carrying the InSight lander, which will dig into Mars, measuring the red planet's quakes and temperature. It's expected to touch down sometime in November. How cool is that?
So you can get to Mars?
For the midterms.
Perfect
Always
timing.
got that midterm lens.
Yeah, that's what I'm
What is
thinking.
that, like 6 months? That's not. I feel like it would take longer.
Ed has
with Mars.
a calendar above his bed.
Good stuff. He does. Check. Getting close. That might be true. All right. Well, the sit down is set. President Trump says he now knows when he'll meet face to face with Kim Jong-un as he prepares to host South Korea's president at the White House coming up. We're live from Washington, D.C. with what we know right now.
Plus, Michelle Malkin is here. She's live. Coming up.
Welcome back. President Trump making even more progress along the Korean Peninsula.
The president set to host the South Korean president at the White House before the historic summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un.
Our own Jillian Turner is live in Washington, D.C. with the latest. Jillian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. So President Trump will host President Moon of South Korea on May 22nd in advance of his hotly anticipated summit with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. That's slated for the end of May or early June. The negotiating team has settled on a location for the summit, but they're not quite ready to disclose their choice just yet. This likely in keeping with the president's stated goal of never broadcasting national security plans in advance. However, this isn't keeping the president from teasing the event.
We are in constant contact with North Korea. We've actually worked out a time and a place which will be announced shortly. And very soon. I figured you'd ask.
Also in play is the status of 3 Korean American hostages being held illegally in the north, where the regime refers to them as prisoners of war. Kim Jong-un has long been detaining American citizens to use as bargaining chips or leverage in his dealings with the international community. But now 3 of them may be released in advance of the Trump-Kim summit, according to the administration. They have reportedly been relocated from a labor camp to a private hotel near Pyongyang. The ideal scenario for the Trump team is to complete the release and transfer of these hostages before the start of the Trump-Kim summit. Sources say they don't want the president to have to negotiate their release in his direct conversations with Kim. They want the 2 leaders to focus exclusively on the nuclear issue. Pete?
All right, Jillian, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
A lot on the table. Thank you, Jillian.
Tons, yeah, good information. All right, is former Secretary of State John Kerry engaging in shadow diplomacy? Well, a new report says he's working behind the scenes to save the Iran deal. Michelle Malkin is fired up about that and other issues, and she's coming up next.
Plus, a nightmare vacation on the high seas. Passengers swimming in the hallways on a cruise. Have you seen this?
Wait, they were promised that they'd have a wonderful swim. What do you
They're
mean?
still at sea.
Oh, they were supposed to swim in the pool, not in the hallway? Oh,
Ed,
my goodness.
Oh, boy.
Stay with us.
Oh, boy.
1-0 pitch. There's a flare out to right field, and there it is. Hit number 3,000 for Albert Pujols.
Some quick headlines from a historic night in the sport I love, baseball. Angels star Albert Pujols joining the 3,000 hit club. Well deserved, reaching the milestone with a single in the 5th inning against the Mariners. He's the 32nd player in Major League Baseball history with 3,000 hits. Congratulations, Pujols. And the LA Dodgers throwing a combined no-hitter. It's not a real no-hitter, but anyway, against the San Diego Padres.
Were there no hits?
There were no hits, but one guy has to complete the game. It happened in Mexico. Rookie starter Walker Buehler going the first 6 innings. 3 relievers teaming up. Oh, 3 guys to get the final 9 outs. It's the first no-hitter outside the U.S. or Canada. It's cool. I don't mean to demean it, but the starters should go all the way. And Lauren Peacock, one of our top producers, she's a Dodgers fan. She's yelling at me right now.
She is yelling.
Is that why she was yelling?
You gotta go the whole way. A no-hitter is one guy going the distance.
Yeah, how do you pull the guy in the 6th inning when he's got a no-no going?
4 guys.
She said it's pouring rain.
It was pouring rain in Mexico.
Yeah.
Let me call the ambulance. Anyway, sorry.
All right, we know how Ed feels about that one. All right, President Trump calling out the problems with our country's immigration laws.
We have the worst immigration laws anywhere in the world. Migrants pouring up through Mexico, flooding the border. Illegal immigration must end.
This is the last big group of the caravan asylum seekers, about 70 strong, crossed into the U.S. as recently as Friday morning.
Joining us to react is host of Michelle Malkin Investigates on CRTV, Michelle Malkin. Good morning, Michelle. Always good to see you.
You too. Hi, everyone.
Hey, so obviously this is the biggest issue the president campaigned on. He is still doubling down on the wall and making sure that we are stronger at the border. The question that I have is seeking asylum. You have all of them coming over that border, and the caravan is now completely, I think, over that border in California. They want to seek asylum, but how do you differentiate those that really do need to seek asylum to those that don't?
Well, there's a process for that. The issue here, though, is that this was a concerted effort to make a circus at the border. And so the asylum claims on their face of it are questionable, especially since Mexico offered asylum to almost all of the people in the caravan. So if they had been offered asylum and refused to take it there, what are they doing here? It is for economic reasons that most of these migrants are trying to flout the border, and they're being exploited by an open borders lobby that has a special interest in making sure that we can't control our borders. Here's the thing, and I've reported on this for the last 25 years. There is a saying in the open borders community, and it goes like this: it ain't over till the alien wins. They know that once these migrants are able to infiltrate the immigration system, it is a litigation lottery and litigation bureaucracy, and they are going to inevitably win. And this is what President Trump is understanding now, is that it's not just a physical border. It's the fact that you have this entire immigration system that has been set up separately from immigration enforcement agencies. It's called the Executive Office for Immigration Review. It's very little known, and I know people's eyes are going to glaze over, but the fact is that once you get into this lottery, you know what? Illegal aliens have more bites at the judicial and court and legal apple than American citizens do. They can appeal this all the way up to the Supreme Court, be rejected over and over and over again, evade deportation, evade judicial orders to leave the country, and it never, ever ends.
Michelle, briefly, we're going to move on to another topic, but before we do so, did this caravan backfire? Did the president exposing it, wake a lot of Americans up to how dysfunctional our system is on the border?
Well, I think it's been successful, because here I am. I just spent, a minute talking about something that nobody ever talks about on TV, but is well known among immigration lawyers who are deliberately sabotaging our borders and have for every single day. It's not just the wall, it's the entire system. Yeah. So in that sense, it was a success to open people's eyes.
Yeah. Michelle, what about this story in the Boston Globe? It's really remarkable. John Kerry quietly seeking to salvage the Iran deal he helped craft. That's their headline. When you get into the details, it's not just quietly trying to salvage it, it's secretly trying to undermine the Trump White House.
Yeah, there's a word for this. It's called treachery. And I believe that John Kerry should be prosecuted for failing to register as a foreign agent, of which he has been acting for many years as. But now to be meeting with foreign leaders, and especially the leader of a country whose operating motto is death to America, this is amazing. And first of all, it's not just the Iranian mullahs that he's been meeting with. He met secretly and privately with Macron to talk about salvaging the Iran deal. And in fact, there's an entire network of people, all of these left-wingers, progressives under the Obama administration who are trying to salvage his quote-unquote legacy, have formed this group called Diplomacy Works. Who are the real colluders? They're right here in front of us. Who are the ones who are trying to get foreign governments to meddle to undermine our president? Hello, John Kerry.
Let me add one other thing. I keep hearing whispers in Washington that John Kerry is quietly talking to allies about running for president again. And I wonder if he wants this to be, I saved the Iran.
Really?
Yep.
You know, I wish that this guy would just go back to parasailing in the Hamptons and never come down.
That's going to have to be the last word. That's some advice.
All right, Michelle. We believe it. I haven't heard that, Ed.
Oh, thank you very much.
He's talking to
All
people
right,
about
add that name to the list.
Oh, boy.
All right. Meanwhile,
Playing the
talking
hits.
about a name out there, Kanye West. Could he
Maybe
be
he'll run
visiting
too.
the West Wing? Is in the Kanye West Wing. One White House advisor is trying to make it happen.
And our own Janice Dean is live at Churchill Downs, and we hear you got a special Derby lesson, Janice. What's going on?
Oh my gosh, the trainer of Justify, which is the favored to win, Mike Smith, takes me backstage to train on how to be a jockey. Oh, it's happening. This doesn't happen very often, so you want to stay tuned. It's coming up at the 144th Kentucky Derby here at Churchill Downs. Here's the official program. Join us next. Woo!
Got a contest. Ed's going to shoot. I'm going to shoot. Yeah. You ready? A little bit. Yeah. I need you. Yes, sir. Give it to him now. Oh, sorry. The better man won.
Pete wants a shot at redemption. Go.
Oh my! Do I have to make this? All right.
Watch it, Pete.
Oh, yes, this is your shot of the morning. Pete versus Ed.
The pressure builds on him. That putt, he was like, nah.
Pete is clearly the underdog in all of this competition, but
I'm
today,
so calm and confident right
today
now.
could be redemption.
Not true.
Because Pete and Ed, they're going to compete in our own Derby
Rick is
competition
practicing.
out on the plaza.
I don't need practice.
Rick's playing alone. He's practicing.
All right, so we asked our viewers who they want to win. I got to read a tweet that came in first. It says, I love both Ed and Pete, but Ed has to keep winning. It's so much fun to see Ed Henry's face when he wins.
You should see his face when we play that video every time.
I love it.
Just sheer glee.
I'm trying to find
Suzanne, you tweeted this. Thank you very much. You said, I'm always rooting for the underdog. Go, Pete. Thank you. I will redeem you today, Suzanne.
That's nice. All right, Scott says, definitely Pete. Just look at what happened to Griff Jenkins when he tried to compete with Pistol Pete.
Oh, Margaret writes in, love you, Pete Hegseth, but got to go with Ed Henry. The dude has skills.
Wow.
And on Twitter, we actually ran a poll.
Oh, really? Oh, good. Scientific. Very scientific.
Will Pete finally be victorious, or will Ed's winning streak go on? 65% on Team Pete.
You know what? Thank you. My team is still with me. You know, your captain will finally right the ship today.
I don't know that they're still with you. I think they feel so sorry for you.
Oh, you think it's an empathy vote?
Yeah, they want you to win one.
They feel bad. And Bob on Twitter sends me, what sort of participation trophy should I send Pete when you smoke him once again like a bad cigar?
Ed was watching videos on YouTube of that game and tips about how to play
Trying
it.
to figure it out. I got to win.
That's real, right?
It's now. I'm consumed by this.
All right, well, keep emailing us your thoughts. Who's going to win? friends@foxnews.com. Will it be Pete? Will it be Ed? You're going to have to watch the rest of the show to see.
It's going to be Ed.
Yeah. All right, we do have some other headlines I want to bring you this morning. Michael Flynn's brother is lashing out at James Comey overnight over the House Intel Committee's report on Russia. The report says Comey and Andrew McCabe testified that they saw no signs of deception during their interview with Flynn, contradicting what Comey told Bret Baier just a few weeks ago. Watch.
Did you tell lawmakers that FBI agents didn't believe former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was lying intentionally to investigators?
No.
You did not
And I
tell
saw that in the media. I don't know what. Maybe someone misunderstood something I said. I didn't believe that and didn't say that.
Well, now Michael Flynn's brother, Joe Flynn, is releasing this statement saying, quote, "I have said publicly and in social media throughout the whole ordeal, my brother is a patriot who served his country with honor and distinction for over 33 years. He is not a liar." And a manhunt intensifying at this hour for a gunman who shot an ATF agent in the face. Police now conducting raids along the south side of Chicago, sending the suspect this message.
"We'll find you. We will knock on every door, talk to every witness, watch every piece of video, and analyze every piece of evidence. Believe me, you will not get away with this."
Wow. Authorities now offering $61,000 for information leading to the arrest of those responsible. The injured agent, luckily, is expected to survive. Also this, Kanye West making major headlines after expressing his support for the president. And now the president is on board to host the rapper during a White House summit on race relations. White House advisor Dr. Daryl Scott joined us earlier in the show explaining why this should happen.
The African-American community is not against the president. You have to understand, courage inspires courage. Fearlessness inspires fearlessness. There's a solid minority out there.
Well, a date for that event has not been set. Stay tuned. And talk about a nightmare vacation. Gallons of water gushing from the walls, flooding a Carnival cruise ship. The company blaming it on a break in the Carnival's Dreams fire suppression system, flooding 50 rooms on Deck 9. Crew members frantically scooping up water, as you can see there, with buckets. Impacted guests will receive a full refund, well, that's nice, and the option to be flown home. The 7-day Caribbean cruise that departed from New Orleans Sunday, it is still out to sea. Can you imagine?
Wow, man, serious situation.
Have you guys done a cruise?
I have. Yeah.
All right. Rick has been out there practicing the game, and he's got some folks out there as
I
well.
don't need practice, guys. I'm the master at that. I know you guys think you have a competition, but Hey, Charlotte, welcome from Florida.
Thank you.
You're here for your birthday. Your grandma takes all the kids. You have the best grandma ever. We've met her many times with your other cousins. Do you think this is the best time of all the cousins trips?
Yes.
Yes? All right, very good. Charlotte from Florida coming here for the Big Apple. Thank you for the sign. If you make a sign, you get on the show. Those are the rules. Take a look at the weather map. Show you what's going on this morning. Here's your temperatures. Feeling much better across the east. We all complained all spring long about the winter. Went straight to summer this week. Now we're back to spring, finally. It's going to feel very, very nice. A little bit of cloud cover out there. Here's the forecast for the day today. 70s pretty much across the board. Beautiful conditions. We will see some rain over across parts of the central Appalachians. Down across the south, we're also looking at a pretty nice day. The severe weather we had this week, incredible severe weather, that is gone. Just some scattered showers. Florida seeing some heavier rain showers, especially southeast Florida. In towards the northern plains, a very spring-like day. And finally out across the west, tons of sunshine as well. The heat building across the southwest. All right, guys.
Rick, you've been playing that game. What's your tip? What's your tip?
I'm not going to tell you. Certainly been to the county fair, Pete.
All right.
I have too.
Thank you, Rick.
I feel you.
Well, we are counting down to what they call the fastest 2 minutes in sports. And while the horses are getting ready for the race today, so is our own Janice Dean. She is live right now from Churchill Downs.
That's right.
Janice Dean, the weather machine. I hear you got some tips on how these horses train.
Yes. So Mike Smith, who is the jockey today for what we think could be the award-winning horse, Justify. This is Mike Smith. He is the jockey. It's not often he will take people backstage to show his magic on the horse. Also, I talked to Kieran McLaughlin, who is my buddy, who is also a trainer for Enticed, and that horse is also going to be in the Derby. Let's take a look at why my thighs hurt this morning. This is Mike Smith. You're going to be riding
Justify in the Kentucky Derby.
What's the magic behind him, do you think?
He's extremely talented. Everything he does seems to be well above average, so we're excited about our chances.
I was hoping that maybe you could teach me a few of your tricks on how do you prepare for riding the horse.
Sure, no problem. We'll start by dressing you up here.
What do you think, Mike?
Silk, yeah.
I like these colors.
We don't have a helmet on you just because
it doesn't fit.
Well, jockeys got littler heads, I guess.
Don't tell anybody you have a big head.
And then,
they already know that.
I'll let you put these on. You gotta start by putting your feet in the irons, if you can get them there. This is called a cross, so you want to be able to hold hold this.
Okay.
And then you got the other rein there.
Right.
Go ahead and grab it.
With my
whip? With the whip as well.
Okay.
And then you actually kind of want to tighten it just a little bit more. So what you do is you slide your hands and slide it together.
Yep.
Okay, now you got it. Push his neck. Nice and easy, yeah.
Well, this is easy.
Okay.
This is like, you know, when I'm a kid and I've got like the rocking horse.
Okay, but now what you're gonna try and do is lift yourself up just a little.
Oh no! Look at me! Look at me go!
You're actually doing pretty good.
Really?
You're sitting pretty good. Well, yeah.
And they're off.
You can visualize you winning the Kentucky Derby.
Oh yeah? Like you're coming down the track.
Sure.
And the finish is near.
And now the horses move into the final turn.
You're doing good for a first timer.
I am inspired, having trained with Justify's jockey. Now I'm going to find my buddy Kieran McLaughlin, who also has a horse in the Derby. Kieran, this is very exciting. Entice is right behind us, running in the Derby. I mean, do some trainers get a little bit like weirded out if we're back here with, you know, the talent?
Yeah, sometimes horses get a little spooked, but he's a real classy horse.
What do you do to like prepare him for the race?
Well, we don't do much today. He's already trained early this morning just to keep him loosened up and in a routine.
You saw me on the mechanical horse. What advice would you give me? I mean, the performance
would be keep your day job. It's difficult. It's very difficult to be a jockey, and so the moving around, you have to try and be still and communicate with the horse. It's hard.
What do you think? Do you think that, you know, like I could be your jockey? Do you think that that would work? We could ride into the sunset in the Derby here in Kentucky? What do you think? Okay, maybe not. Yeah, this is more my speed. Just feeding the ponies, not riding them. All right, so there you have it. That's why I'm in pain today, because I was riding that horse, and even Mike Smith said I was doing a great job. Abby, Pete, and Ed, what did you think?
No surprise, but I agree you should
form.
keep your day job, Janice, because we can't lose you. We can't lose your smiling face every morning.
No, I think you can do both, Janice. I really,
Okay.
your form was good enough that I think I'd
Really?
like to see you on the track at some point.
Fantastic. It's like,
Like a
participatory.
part-time job.
Yeah, like a side gig.
Well, listen, you know what will help the pain is next hour we're going to be sampling some mint juleps.
Oh,
Of course, the
yeah.
official drink of the Kentucky
The
Derby.
best part of the Derby.
Fantastic,
Love it.
Janice. Well done.
Well, listen,
See you next
it was
hour.
a pleasure. I got to tell you, Mike Smith, he doesn't do that very often. That's very rare. So we are very fortunate to have Fox and Friends back in the saddle.
You might be his
Back
good
to
luck.
you.
I love it.
How do
Janice,
you say
thank
no
you.
to Janice Dean? Thank you, Janice. We'll see you soon.
All right, well, a free speech report from the University of California, Berkeley blames conservatives for those anti-free speech riots. We're serious about that. Coming up, we have the executive vice president of the UC College, Berkeley College Republicans here to respond.
Plus, unemployment just plummeted to an 18-year low. And the good news doesn't stop there. Charles Payne joins us with what this means and whether or not he's tired of all the winning.
Welcome back. Well, President Trump touting the historic April jobs report.
Look at our economy. Today we broke 4%, 3.9% we hit today for the first time in many, many years. We're really proud of it.
Since 2000, the overall unemployment rate fell to 3.9%. As I said, the first time in over 18 years. And the black unemployment rate fell to 6.6%, the lowest on record.
Here to break it all down for us, Fox Business Network's Charles Payne. Good morning.
Good morning. Charles.
We had a Democratic strategist on earlier in the show, and he would give the president no credit at all.
I know, it's tough. I don't know how they continue to do that. I mean, these numbers are absolutely remarkable. Obviously, they weren't perfect, but, you know, we're in a difficult situation with a lot of extenuating circumstances, but we've got to celebrate what's going on here. That 3.9% number, black unemployment 6.6%, the lowest ever. Some of the other major milestones, I dug deep into this thing that I thought were great. People who are working part-time for economic reasons, that came down. Long-term unemployment, people unemployed for 27 weeks or lower, it's down to 1.3 million people. That peaked at 7 million. 7 million in 2010. So goods producing. I talk about this everywhere I go because this is the folks in the heartland, right? Prosperity coming back to the heartland. These are the great jobs where you work with your hands. I call them
And
dirty fingernail
small
jobs.
businesses.
Construction, mining, manufacturing, 49,000 jobs last month. That is unheard of.
I talk to people that work in the small businesses, and they say that for them in particular, it has been a huge boom because they are now able to bring in more people to help deliver their product.
If you were to boil down what's happening in this economy, no niche of this economy is more excited or about what's happening than small businesses. In fact, small business optimism surged after the election and has remained high, and is translating into jobs.
Now, Charles, the state of Maine in 2014 began requiring able-bodied people and childless adults who receive food stamps to work. It's basically, well, you have to work in order to get welfare. What have been the results of that approach?
Beyond mind-boggling. In 3 months, 80% of the caseload vanished. Now, you had to do three things. You had to go get a job. And by the way, there are a whole lot of jobs up there, particularly lower paying jobs. You had to participate in the work training program, or you had to do community service. If you balked at the community service, or if you balked in any of those, then you stopped getting food stamps. People went out, they got jobs, or they just simply didn't get food stamps anymore. One thing that was interesting about this report, though, is how the money was wasted. For instance, over 50% of these able-bodied adults without dependents smoke cigarettes. Right, that came out to $111 a month. By the way, in New York City, that would come out to $3,200 a year. A year that a taxpayer would subsidize someone $3,000 a year to smoke cigarettes. So, yeah, the bottom line is, sometimes if you nudge people, sometimes if you just kind of say, hey, no more, they find a way to do it themselves.
Do you think this would catch on at the federal level? Do you think they could do something like this?
Oh, absolutely. By the way, this was done with Bill Clinton. In fact, the same results were seen under Bill Clinton, but it took, instead of 3 months, it took 3 years. But the same thing, able-bodied adults who were able to work but didn't work and were getting food stamps, but forced either to get a job, go into work training, or do community service, end up going back to work.
You know, it betters them, too, because it gives them a purpose. So it's better all around.
It's a beautiful thing. You're actually unlocking potential talents in people, and it gives you a better purpose for life. So I think it's the kind of tough love that Americans should appreciate.
All right, Charles Payne, appreciate it.
You got it.
Thanks a lot.
Charles. Appreciate it. Well, a federal judge ripping into Bob Mueller over the scope of the special counsel. Is it enough to put the collusion theory to rest once and for all? We're going to ask Alan Dershowitz at the top of the hour.
Plus, the studio. I wish you could all be here. It smells amazing. Rachel Campus Duffy and her adorable daughter are cooking tacos.
Yes.
It is Cinco de Mayo. There's so much to celebrate on the show today.